So many veterans are sick.
Mhm.
They've got Parkinson's disease. They're suffering from exposure to burning trash when they were in Somalia. The amount of cognitive difficulties, hearing loss, tremors, traumatic brain injury. We know that veterans themselves suffer so much more by virtue of their service, their families, just by being on bases where they're exposed to chemicals. We're not really talking about that side of it either. The fact of the matter is that they have given more than what they're getting back. We need to do better.
Our care centers aren't just necessarily for the end of life, but they also provide respite care. So when families need a break, they have the opportunity to allow us to care for their loved one and know that we're taking great care of them. So that is a Medicare covered benefit if they're on hospice services.
During that time, our person comes to the Haven facility, and then you get a minute to like go on vacation or go to a wedding or
A reunion or whatever it is. Just sleep, just take a break.
We'll have volunteers go into homes so caregivers can go to the salon. They
Right,
can
yes.
go grocery shopping.
Yes.
Just to give them a respite from that perspective as well.
I'm here with Michael Maloney and Jodie Goodman. And we are here to talk a little bit about Haven Hospice and the special role that Michael plays with veterans as they get closer to death. I want you both to know we just did a podcast and it involved Laura Monday, who's our elder care coordinator, and we've been talking a lot about death and how we can do better with regard to death. I just got trained as a death doula, and we've really been engaging a lot in conversations about death, trying to understand, where are we missing the mark with seniors and also with younger people who have, terminal conditions or end stage conditions or even chronic illness when we're talking about palliative care.
Sure.
So welcome to the two of you, but our focus today is absolutely going to be on veterans. Happy 250th of our United States. And let's talk a little bit. I'd like to start with you, Michael.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your role at Haven and how you came into this role and what you do there.
Okay. I am absolutely privileged and honored to do the work that we do with our veterans at Haven. And out in the community as well within Bradford County and Alachua County. Ceremonies we take to home and we take to assisted living facilities as well. When I came across this position, what drew me in immediately was the fact that it had everything to do with veterans and their family members, which are those both combined are just huge passions of mine. I've been for a very long time. I know that I became interested in veteran care in that regard because I am a veteran. I'm a combat veteran, and specific to Haven and the fact that we do end of life care, if I could say that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention Dr. Medley real quick because specific to my military experiences, when my military experiences as far as death are concerned, were all battlefield combat related.
Yes.
So when I came here with the opportunity to look at death from a very different perspective as far as our veterans are concerned, it was a tough transition at first because of what I had experienced way back when. But Dr. Medley was such an incredibly amazing influence, mentor, that he would always talk in his new volunteer orientations about how when people and veterans, when they come into Haven, we want to give them a good death. And I really
Yes.
struggled with that at first. I because I didn't understand what a
You're
good
not
death.
alone.
Yeah.
You are not
Yes.
alone.
Yeah. So when he talked about it, I was able to kind of reframe my thinking specific to death and dying. So much so that, and I included this in a story that I brought with me. I was able to kind of reframe it from the perspective of, especially with veterans, when a veteran is dying, I kind of look at it as, Vikings of old. They're dying with their shield and their sword on their chest, and I think that is such an incredibly honorable thing to do for them, to bring that honor and that recognition to them. So Dr. Medley was a huge influence as far as me beginning that transition from understanding what those battlefield experiences were like for me to coming into a Haven hospice program where it was peaceful, it was dignified, it was respectful. Family was included. Family was very much a part of the process of what was going on with their veteran loved one as well. So putting that all together, it was just an amazing confluence of events specific to, okay, this is a really, really different experience as far as my veteran experiences are concerned, which was wonderful.
So Michael's one
Yeah.
of our volunteer coordinators at the
Yes.
organization. And
Yes.
so he has a really big role in the organization because, as you know, one of Medicare's certificates of participation or conditions of participation are that we have a certain percentage of volunteers for cost savings within the organization. So our volunteers play an incredible role in caring for our patients and their families. And so Michael providing this and really highlighting our veterans has really helped to build up a lot of those hours and those celebrations.
Jodie,
Yes.
so a good death. I mean, obviously, we know a good death for non-veterans, what that might look like, but a good death for veterans, and I think veterans in particular combat veterans who have seen active military service where they're in combat situations. And here we come as hospice, right? As Haven, which is a haven
Yeah.
for where you can experience a different way of leaving the world, right?
Mm.
And combat veterans definitely have an experience that distinguishes them. Why is it that hospice can provide a better death event? I mean, maybe not even better, but a different experience with death than we might see a veteran get in like the VA hospital or somewhere where veterans are all around and, they're going through a death event with their peers.
Mm-hmm.
How does hospice do it differently?
I think, Shannon, hospice and Haven in particular, we really meet the patients and families where they are. So we take the time to understand their current needs. We develop an individual plan of care. We implement programs like our We Honor Veterans program, which, Michael will be talking about a little bit later on today too. But we're patient. And, they may not choose Haven or may not choose the service right away. And it may take us really talking with them and meeting them, say a referral from the VA.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times we do veteran outreach and community outreach in general. So sometimes we'll meet them at community events and they'll talk to us and they'll ask us a few questions. And later on, they'll call us and they'll ask a few more questions. And then we'll go and establish a goals of care conversation with them. And we might determine at that time that palliative is the right option. Or we might talk a little bit more and they need some more support and hospice is the right option. But we really allow them to be in their home setting, which is often less traumatizing. If it's a safe environment and they're able to be in their home, if they want to be in their home, we want to support them there, or wherever they call home is where we provide the care.
Michael, what distinguishes it for you? I mean, you're a veteran. Do you get your treatment at the VA?
I do. And,
Okay.
and I wanted to add as an adjunct to what
Yes.
Jodie had shared. I think the big difference between the VA and they do provide hospice care at the VA
Yes.
and what we do at Haven. I mean, you've got this big hospital setting which can be very sterile. Not that it's not caring, but it can be sterile. I mean, it's a hospital medical model sort of thing. And when we have them come to us, I mean, it's very intimate, it's very personal. They're the opportunity for staff, medical staff, and volunteers to interact with the veterans or any patient that we have at Haven. It is exponentially larger than what a veteran may get at the VA.
Tell me about one of these services. And I will tell you that the reason I came across you is because my daughter's grandfather, you came and did a program for him. And it was so moving to me, the level of detail and, the family was able to participate. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. And he was able to enjoy it, even though he was very close to the end of his life. I think he actually died about 7 days after you did the program for him. It was so profoundly moving to the family. And I heard about it. I wasn't there, but I saw some pictures and it was just incredible, the experience that you personally, and I'm sure Haven's a part of that, but you did such a beautiful job of making him feel seen. His service was relatively small. but you found information. What does that look like for you? Like when you get somebody who comes in, what do you research? How do you put together these programs?
Love that question. Probably one
Yeah.
of my favorite questions to be asked as far as the work that we do with our veterans. When I receive a request for a veteran recognition ceremony, I will contact family as soon as I can. I always ask permission to do a ceremony. I think that that's really important to put that out there up front. Um, I'll talk with the family. I'll get permission to do the ceremony. With that ceremony, I'll spend time with the family. I'll get background information as far as veteran or military service concerned, family interactions with the veteran or that loved one if they were active duty. And I'll pull it all together and I'll create this story that speaks. It's their story. I'm just kind of the messenger in that regard. So I'll put the story together and we'll read that story at the very beginning of the ceremony, which proves to be incredibly moving. I think that it's really important to share that when we do storytelling, I believe that it gives family and the veteran, if they're still cognizant, if they're still with us, it gives them an opportunity to step outside of their illness for just a little while and remember what their service was like, and for the family members to perhaps see their loved one or their veteran in a very different light because the story was told. And I think that every veteran and every family member deserves to have their story told, which is something that we do at Haven.
Yeah.
So after we gather up the information and the stories presented, I brought some mementos here. We give them an American flag blanket, which I want to give you one of. There are these other mementos. We have pins. We have pins that we give them. I like to give family members the pins so they can give them to their loved one. Typically, they'll put the pins on the blue field of the blanket or on the stars of the blanket. But this is a very special one. We don't get very many veterans who served during Vietnam, wartime Vietnam. So we have a Vietnam veteran pin that we give them. It has the Republic of Vietnam's flag as well as the service ribbon that military veterans would get, having served in combat there. So that's a very, very special pin.
I see that.
Yeah.
Did you say you brought a story to share with us?
I did. I brought a couple, actually.
Can we hear
Absolutely.
a story? I think at the time is great for us
Okay.
to. I know I'm getting like a little choked up thinking about,
That's okay.
what you do for people and the experience that you give them. So I would love to hear a story. I may as well get all the choking up over with.
So this story, Jodie is intimately familiar with, and I actually presented it at the very first community board meeting. I'm wondering if you were there.
I was not there for that.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Well, this is when I do stories, the story's about them, but because this was my very first story, I wrote it from the perspective of what it was like for me. And when I story write, it's incredibly cathartic for me. It helps me stay centered and focused on what's really important. So this is the story of a United States Army Special Forces warrior and his warrior brother. The hospice room was dim but warm. The light from the hallway traced a soft gold edge around the doorway, spilling gently across the floor as if time had slowed down out of respect. I stood at the foot of the bed, shoulders squared, voice steady. I was leading a ceremony few ever witness, a final act of honor for a man who had once lived by a creed, "We'll never leave a fallen comrade behind." The veteran before me was a Vietnam-era Green Beret Special Forces Purple Heart recipient, a man who had carried silence like armor. Now in his final hours, he was surrounded not by battle, but by mercy, the quiet kind that comes when the mission is over. Standing beside me was the veteran's brother, also a Vietnam veteran. They were two brothers, two soldiers, bound by blood and by memory. This brother stood shoulder to shoulder with me. We were three warriors occupying a sacred space in that room that carried weight of war from a distant place, family grief, and eventual goodbye. You see, we were honoring a Spartan, and I love using that word because it's so true. We were honoring a Spartan who would be leaving this world very soon. Before the words of the ceremony began, I unfolded a flag blanket, stars and stripes, soft and vibrant, bright and proud. Our warrior's brother, and I lifted it, spreading it slowly over this warrior's body. The fabric settled across him like a shield, a covering of honor and protection. The brother's hand smoothed the edges, and I followed. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The gesture itself was about the language. When the blanket was in place, I began to speak, my voice low and reverent. We're here today to honor one of our own, a man who answered the call, who served with courage, who carried his combat brothers through their darkest days, and who now takes his final rest knowing he's not forgotten. This dying warrior's brother straightened up where he stood, his hands trembling. I asked if he'd like to honor this moment by giving his brother a final salute with me. He quietly nodded. I gave the command attention. Like he and I did hundreds of times before, while wearing our nation's uniform, we snapped to attention. We offered a crisp and strong salute. We were two veterans saluting a third, bridging the living and the dying. I gave the command order arms. With that, we slowly lowered our salutes. It wasn't performance, it was passage. When the words faded, silence filled the room, a silence thick with love, memory, and something greater that we just couldn't name. The brother leaned in and said softly, "It looks like he's sleeping, but I believe he can still hear us." I nodded. I placed my hand gently on the veteran's shoulder, feeling the warmth of life still present. "Thank you for your service," I said quietly. "I love you, my brother. You can stand down now." Mission accomplished. Immediately, he made a low, choking, gurgling sound. It was sudden, raw, and startling. I'd never experienced anything like that before. My heart jumped. For a moment, I feared that I had caused harm. But his brother didn't flinch. He just looked at his sibling, eyes full of knowing. His grace in that moment steadied me. That evening, once home, I asked a doctor friend of mine to help me understand what had happened. He said that sound was not distress. It was a response beyond words, a physical echo of the soul recognizing love, acknowledgement, and honor. In those final moments, the body and spirit can react in ways that we don't fully understand. The veteran's noise was a fleeting, instinctive reaction to being seen, heard, and loved. A sign that your words in the presence of the flag blanket had reached him at the deepest level. The next day, when I returned, the air was calm in this veteran's room. Our dying veteran's breathing had softened. His brother stood beside his bed, his hand resting gently on his brother's arm. "Is his breathing better now?" I asked. His brother nodded yes. He said quietly, "It's better now." We shook hands, not as strangers, but as men who had shared a sacred duty. I gave him a Vietnam War lapel pin, like the one I gave his dying brother. He was wearing it. I felt a lump in my throat. I shared that the lapel pin looked really sharp on him, and he smiled. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Thank you very much. This was a very meaningful ceremony." Before leaving, I looked again at the flag blanket. It still covered the veteran. He reminded me of a Viking who had died in battle, and his shield and sword laid across his chest. The flag was bright in the low light, an emblem of honor, protection, and peace. I whispered to the room and into the silence, to the soul that might still be listening, "We will never leave a fallen comrade behind." Then I walked out, quiet as a prayer, carrying with me the weight and the beauty of what it means to love without fear in the face of goodbye. So that was my very first veteran recognition ceremony.
Powerful.
It was very powerful.
Yeah.
I know that we've talked. I'll never forget that particular one. That was my first opportunity by myself to do ceremony, and I was nervous. I was afraid. I wanted it to be perfect because we're veterans after all, and we need to be perfect. But there were some hiccups along the way, and if it were not for his brother, his steadying presence, I think that not that it would have been a different outcome. It just would have been more. There would have been a little more anxiety present in that moment than there was at the beginning. But he helped make that anxiety go away.
Do you think that these ceremonies, and I'm assuming you're doing them whenever people are veterans and they're nearing the end of life or they're in hospice. Or do we do it with palliative if people want it and palliative care?
And currently really focused on our hospice patients, but they don't have to be necessarily in the dying process.
Okay.
They can be in any stage.
Okay.
And Michael will go to the home. We also do them across all of our territories. So all 18 counties should be completing our veteran recognition programs. It's really a part of our We Honor Veterans program and a part of our volunteer program.
And when you're doing these, Michael, and you get to know the families, is there a time where the veterans sometimes want to talk about their service?
Absolutely.
Do they share, kind of
Absolutely.
their experience? And
When-
what is that like? What does that look like?
Sure, when they're able to, of course. I will talk with veteran when I'm gathering storied information. If the veteran is capable of bringing that to us, I'll speak with them and I'll get their personal perspective as far as their military service is concerned. So yes, we have them very much involved leading the storytelling, if I may put it that way. Um, it's with those veterans that are still with us, and I'll talk with family members as well, as far as like finding out the names of Navy ships that they served on.
Mhm. Yeah.
The names of fighter planes that they flew during the Korean War, tanks that they were tank drivers or gunners in. I mean, I'll find those pictures, I'll put them in frames, and I'll give them to the veteran and the family
Yes.
member as part of the recognition. And I think what really hits them, family and the veteran, if the veteran can still be part of that process with us, it makes that service much more real to the family.
Yes.
I really want to emphasize how, with what we're doing now at Haven with the We Honor Veterans program, we've incorporated more family interaction.
Yeah.
Um,
So good.
they're not standing up against the wall where their grief is consuming them. They're very much brought into the process of what we're doing with our veteran recognition ceremonies.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I know that a lot of veterans, a lot of our clients who are veterans don't really enjoy talking about their service. And a lot of times their families have no idea what they actually even did, what their, Emma, what their the role that they had. So do you find that to be true as well when you're going through this?
More true among our Vietnam War veterans than
Yes.
than Korean or World War II. But I found that being a veteran myself, in that we speak the same language, I'll go in when I'm understanding that we have, for example, a Vietnam War veteran who may not want a ceremony, and I'll know that going in, or maybe kind of on the fence. I mean, I'll just go in and I'll talk with them
Yeah.
and like, tell me your story.
Yeah.
And he or she will tell me their story, and I'll mention a ceremony. I never say, "Hey, we're going to do this." I'll say, "This is something that you've earned," because a lot of Vietnam veterans, as you know, they're like, I mean, they came home to horribleness of what
Yes.
was going on in this country and what they had actually experienced. I like when people ask me, well, what's the difference between what a World War II veteran and a Vietnam War veteran experienced coming home? Well, it's pretty simple to understand, in that when our World War II veterans coming home, they were on a ship for a couple weeks. So they were with each other. They were like their very first group therapy kind of session, if I could put it that way. So they drank and they smoked and they fought and they cried and they prayed. So when they got back stateside, there was a bit of decompression that happened, right? That when they left that war front, they were talking about it already.
Yeah.
But with our Vietnam veterans all the way up to our Middle East wars, our soldiers were removed from a combat environment, and within 48 hours they were home.
Yeah.
They were walking the aisles of like a Publix trying to figure out what kind of cereal they want to buy, when they were just in the heat of it, and say like in Fallujah, right, in Iraq. So there's a big difference between how combat veterans were loved on and treated with dignity and respect, compared to the fast exit of what we've been seeing from Vietnam and the Middle East as well.
Do you find that when they're okay with, kind of sharing their stories, when you go and talk to them and, the family's very interested, I know from my experience that the family wants to know, like, how was this for you, grandpa or grandma or whatever? Do you find that there is surprise in the family when they finally know, I had no idea?
All the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. That's why storytelling is so important. I think that we're really doing our veterans and their family members a disservice if we don't give them an opportunity to tell their story,
Right.
because so much is revealed in the process of doing that. And the revelations that are made during the storytelling, to your point, family members are wide-eyed and like, I just didn't, not only did I not know, but thank you.
Right.
Thank you for giving our veteran, our loved one, and giving us a chance to say, these were our experiences, and these are the things that we want all of our families to understand about what's been going on with our veteran loved one, and within the family as well.
Yeah.
If we're not including the whole family, if we're not treating the whole family as one specific to the story, it's not a story. It really isn't. And then that's something that I feel very strongly about, as far as making sure that everyone is heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Female veterans. I'm sure you're coming across more and more. women who
Mhm.
were in various roles
Mhm.
during their service. How is that different? Is it
I
different?
have a story.
Okay.
I have a story of a World War II female veteran,
Excellent.
and I'll leave the name.
That's okay.
Okay.
And Shannon,
So
we also recognize first responders
yes,
too.
Oh, excellent.
not only that, but we recognize the
And
first
healthcare workers.
first black mayor of Alachua.
Yeah.
We came through service, and it's we do that for sure. So this is the story of a World War II female veteran. So today we're gathered. This is a very different format than what I just read. So today we're gathered for something truly sacred. We're here to honor this veteran, a woman who is 102 years old, whose life stretches across more than a century, and whose service reaches back to a time when the world itself was uncertain, fragile, and afraid. When this veteran was young, the world was at war, not a distant war remembered through photographs and documentaries, but a war that entered homes, altered futures, and asked ordinary people to rise into extraordinary responsibility. It was a time of ration books and blackout curtains, of radios carrying voices that could bring hope or heartbreak, of handwritten letters folded carefully, read over and over, held close because they carried love, fear, and longing. And in that moment in history, this veteran chose to serve at a time when women were told, often, to remain in the background, to wait, to stay quiet. She stepped forward, not for recognition, not for praise, but because her country needed her. Her service mattered. Over the course of this veteran's lifetime, she's witnessed a world transformed time and time again. She was born before television lit living rooms, before computers connected people across continents, before medicine could save so many lives now taken for granted. She lived through the Great Depression, through a global war that reshaped nations, through decades of change marked by both progress and loss. She lived to see men walk on the moon. She lived to see women claim their voices and their places. She lived to see a world grow faster, louder, and more complicated. And yet, through all of that change, there's something steady and grounding in this veteran's presence, because service like hers does not fade with time. Women like this veteran held this nation together when the future was not guaranteed. They worked, they waited, they endured, often without applause, often without acknowledgement, often without being asked how heavy the responsibility felt or how much courage it required to carry it quietly. History does not always speak their names loudly, but history was shaped by their hands. Today, this veteran is not just a World War II veteran. She's a living memory, a witness to sacrifice, a bridge between generations, a reminder of what it means to show up when the world needs you the most. She carries within her the strength of a generation that understood duty not as a slogan, but as a way of life. So today we pause, not just to recognize this veteran's service, but to honor her life. The years she lived after the uniform came off, the resilience it took to keep going, the wisdom earned by seeing so much, losing so much, and still standing with grace. To you and to all women of your generation who served when the world stood on the edge of uncertainty, you mattered then, you matter now, and you'll not be forgotten. It's with deep respect, humility, and gratitude that we say, on behalf of a nation shaped by your courage, thank you for your service, thank you for your strength, thank you for the century of history that you carry, which was phenomenal, and the legacy that you leave behind. You're honored today. My salute to you. This is not a performative act. This is a passage, a recognition of your legacy, your courage, and the lives that you protected. It's a sacred gesture holding the weight of gratitude, memory, and honor. And by the way, she just turned 103.
Oh my.
Mhm. She's still
That's
as sharp as
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's
What a
great that we
gift.
got to really
Yeah,
honor
she
and
got to
celebrate her. And,
Yeah, she got
be
to
a part
enjoy
of it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about first responders, also, kind of benefiting from their, kind of hearing their story as well and recognizing their courage and their bravery and stepping into these roles where they're really putting themselves in harm's way. The families, we know we have a lot of families who experience loss and who kind of have dealt with, a veteran coming home and having to readjust and sometimes moving from place to place to place if they're career veterans. How do they do? How does the family do when they're hearing these stories about their parents or their spouse? How do they receive this generally? I know I'm asking you to give general.
Well, there's always an element of sadness
Yeah.
that goes with it, and that's That's just in conjunction with the grief that they're all experiencing, and some that grief hits more profoundly than others. I mean, everyone has their own process specific to grieving, um, but there's always the sadness there. I think that there's also an element of like awareness that they've not experienced before, which is empowering for them on many different levels. And I think because it can become such an empowering experience for them, I think that it helps with their grieving process.
Yeah.
If yeah. Um, so I mean, it's just an amazing thing to be able to witness on my behalf.
Yeah.
Like I shared, I'm just the messenger, and what we bring, what we as an organization, and Jodie's been incredibly supportive of that, what we bring to our veterans and their family members, kind of ray of light. Let's step outside of what's been going on with all the pain and the anguish specific to death and dying, and let's just remember.
Yeah, I'd say Shannon too. Michael's really great, as well as our other volunteer coordinators at kind of understanding what the families have been through or gone through, and they ask a lot of questions to understand that before they're delivering the ceremonies too, so that we can be aware of if this would impact somebody in a certain way.
And let's talk about this, because everyone has a story. I mean, veteran stories are obviously very impactful to our country and to, the work that they did without any hesitation. But are we also, I know you and I have just talked off camera about these recognition ceremonies outside of veterans, that some people out there in our communities have just done some amazing things. And are we bringing some of these recognition stories to that population as well?
May I
You
speak
may.
I had a conversation with one of our chaplains, and I created what's called a legacy questionnaire, which is where I get all of my storied information from. And I talked with one of our chaplains to say, hey, let's collaborate. Let's create a similar legacy questionnaire that you could use from a chaplain's perspective that speaks to those patients and family members that are not veterans or family members of veterans. So that is something that it's a work in progress. We're continuing to collaborate on. Point being is that we're not wanting to forget those that didn't serve either.
Yeah. And so, Shannon, I'll say we've done a lot of different recognitions in different ways for people. We have a lot of different types of volunteers that have different skill sets. And so sometimes we'll utilize hand photography to really recognize family members. We had a gentleman one time that was a story writer, and we had a gentleman on service who was a New York cabbie, and he wrote and shared his information, and this person wrote a story about his New York cabbing experience.
I mean, the stories are tremendous.
They are.
We hear them all the time. We hear them day in and day out. I don't want to go into some of them, but some of them are shocking. Like we had a client who he was a butcher his whole life.
Yeah.
And he saved the bones.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And now he and his wife actually make jewelry out of the bones.
kidding.
And it's amazing. But I mean, stories like this, right? It's like, you don't know what someone else has taken upon themselves to create, as far as just a beautiful interweaving of a unique history and service. And I think it's really interesting because we don't do enough legacy building, and do you know what your great grandmother did? I mean, I saw some pictures. Like, I don't know her stories. I wear a ring from her, but I really don't know much about her.
Right.
And wouldn't it be great if we did a little bit better on kind of creating these stories? And not that anybody, needs to have a huge ceremony every time that we talk about ourselves, but there is something to, closure.
Yeah.
And creating an opportunity for people to discuss our person, not at their funeral, but to them, to celebrate them, to say, like, we value what you did in your short time that you were here, or the long time that you were here, like, it's great. And let's talk about it. And let's not make this always so sad. And so, like, death is hard. I mean, I love the idea of a good death. Don't get me wrong. Or the body dies, the body's born. Like, it's natural.
Right.
But it would be great if we didn't wait until after someone is gone to really acknowledge the gifts that they've brought to us in the world.
So we recently started a genealogy program too. And so we're able to go over their family tree. And we go back as far as we can. And then we present it to them in a nice frame and a plaque, and they get to share with their family. But to your point, it allows them a lot of opportunity to have conversations that they may not otherwise have.
Right.
So it gives them that time to really engage with each other and engage as a family. And it allows the person on our service, if they're able to really participate, to also share some of the details that they want to leave with their family that they may not have had the opportunity to share otherwise.
Yeah. It's interesting in the death doula training, we talked about this like life review. Where,
We do
you know,
those.
right? You
Yeah,
might
we
be,
do those.
right? You do those. So you can kind of see, you know, what is interwoven in there as a third party, just as a witness. Like, I'm sure you're doing a lot of, Michael, and Jodie, you probably are too, just by virtue of your job, where you can kind of observe, you know, what they did in their lives through their telling of their own story and kind of say like, wow, this is really neat that you did this then and this then and this then. And it can create kind of a feedback loop that people might otherwise not experience before they die. You know, but if we have that opportunity to kind of recognize we're at the end of this journey and we want to hear, what is it that you reflect on? What was it? What were the things that were important to you? And then maybe even to say like, wow, this was really cool. And just to like be a witness,
Yeah.
you know, it's like really cool and powerful.
And sometimes people need that opportunity to share, to even have the closure to go.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And the other thing they talk about, I don't know if y'all do this or not, but they talk about resentments, right? Like when you've been holding on to something your whole life and you're like been carrying it around in your backpack, you know, and that sometimes as we get closer to the end of the journey, it might be time to like kind of take that thing out and maybe just figure out if there's a way for us to resolve these unresolved issues that might exist at the end. And I don't know if you all have been kind of dealing with any of that stuff also, but what a great gift.
And we have an amazing clinical team that really works to support people through that. And I've heard countless stories about how they've connected people across the country or across the world to be able to have the ability to have a resolution or a goodbye or an I'm sorry. And so we've done video calls, we've, connected them, we've found people.
Yes.
And so we have a great team of people that really work to do that.
Yeah. We had a client, she and her sister had a lot of animosity and she was at the end of her life and she just kept hanging on. And we were like, what is she waiting for? You know, like she hadn't eaten for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And she hadn't been hydrated. And she and her sister had this conflict that was unresolved.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to like kind of create that closure for her. The sister did come. This is not the best story, but the sister did come and they got in another fight. It was not resolved, but she did die shortly after that meeting. But to your point, like sometimes we need to try these things, you know, and sometimes it's going to create, you know, a mechanism for a more peaceful departure. And I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Like we're humans.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. And sometimes but I think I love the idea of trying to find a way to like resolve some of these issues that people hold on to, because I do feel like sometimes it's just such a like it literally just carries such burden for people. You
And
know?
the wonderful part about our volunteers is
Yeah.
a lot of times it's their job to just listen,
Yeah.
right? And so they're there providing companionship and listening.
I love
And so
that.
sometimes they hear stories even from our dementia patients
Yeah.
that, they're hearing and listening. It may not make a lot of sense at the time, but when they go back and share it with the families, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so it's really impactful that they have the ability to just be that support.
Michael, if you had a vision for veterans like if it could be the experience above all experiences for our veterans when they're at the end of life, that we see that the death event is coming, all the signs are there, we're noticing that the body is really at that stage. What would that look like to you? What would the best veteran experience kind of encompass, and how would we build that for our veterans?
It's a great question. On a more kind of a more macro perspective, I've written our Congress people, our senators, asking for permission to fly our flags at half staff all the time, to honor all of those veterans that we pass. I've done that twice. I've not heard back. So that's like bigger picture. That's something that would honor our veterans, and obviously
Wow.
family members coming to be with them and spend time, they would see that.
Yes.
We have 2 prominent flags, one in the front of our facility and one in the back. I just think that if we could get the message out to the community, the community at large, that we have a segment of our population that has given so much, sacrificed so much, and that they deserve every recognition that could ever come their way. And my dream is that there would be so much community support and love that would come out of the woodwork, right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, we see these people, we know what they did, we know where they went for us, and it's time for us to do the right thing by them.
Yes.
Whatever that looked like, whatever it sounded like, because I think it's a long time in coming. And I have a particular soft spot in my heart for our Vietnam veterans with respect to that. We already talked about the reasons behind that, but yeah.
Well, and also, just doing this work, so many veterans are sick. They've got Parkinson's disease. They're suffering from, exposure to burning trash when they were in Somalia, or, the amount of cognitive difficulties, hearing loss, tremors, traumatic brain injury. We know that veterans themselves suffer so much more by virtue of their service, or even, their families, just by being on bases where they're exposed to chemicals. So it really is like, we're not really talking about that side of it either, which is, veterans did step into this job voluntarily, most of them, although I'm sure you've seen some that were enlisted.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that they have given more than what they're getting back. And, we need to do better. We need to study them more. We need to stop hiding the ball about what actually happens. And then I think if we can create this process that you all are talking about, but this should be in the VA too. I love the VA. They do the best they can. They should be properly funded. And these ceremonies should exist for every single veteran, and it should be something that's incorporated. That's just my personal opinion. But
as far as the VA is concerned in their mental health PTSD delivery system, I found over the years that, especially with combat veterans, that it's difficult for them to connect and engage with a social worker or a psychologist who never served.
yes.
They may show up for their initial appointment, right, that initial evaluation, but beyond that, it's very difficult for them, because they in their thinking, and I get it, you don't know. You didn't walk where I walk. You didn't smell what I smelled. You didn't sleep in what I slept in. And so we begin to lose a whole segment of our veteran population that we could better serve in many different ways. I know for a fact, and I know that I digress, but I know for a fact that in this country, there are so many psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers who served, but they're not working for the VA.
Right.
They're not. So how that resolves itself, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a big issue out there that I feel a lot about.
Yeah. And we should try and recruit them, we should try and recruit, especially like I have so many friends who are, retired veterans and they're in their second careers, and I'm like, we need to get you back in working with veterans.
Volunteers. We have with We Honor Veterans program.
Yeah.
All of our facilities that do these ceremonies, we have a veteran volunteer team.
Beautiful.
We have that at Haven. We have such a large student contingency, which this is a beautiful thing to share. We have such a large University of Florida student contingency that most of our, well, not most, half of our veteran volunteer team are students, which I think is a beautiful thing
Yes.
because here comes that opportunity to build legacy, to connect generations, to bridge what this 102-year-old World War II veteran went through to someone who's coming up as a med student through the University of Florida.
Yes.
So that opportunity is a big deal. And then when I see working with all of our volunteers at Haven, I've shared this with Jodie and many others before, that there's just something very different about a hospice volunteer. There's something different about the heart
Oh, yeah.
of a
100%.
hospice volunteer. I've worked with volunteers in the past, but it's hard to find a descriptive word to say, hey, you're special, you're different, because they are, but on a
They
much
are.
deeper
Yeah.
level than that.
I have a theory about it. It's a little woo-woo, but I feel like there's about 10 to 15% of us who are summoned to do the death
Agreed.
work,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
It's just like something that we're born with, and we just, when we're around death or when we're talking to people about death, we're okay.
Yeah.
And we can be present and bear witness. Other people do different things, you know, but there are a number of us that just kind of understand that we're here to do this job, that we've kind of been, you know, gifted the skills to stand by and to hold space for people as they're walking through it, you know? So to your point, hospice volunteers are different.
They
They're
are.
amazing.
They are a different
And they
breed.
give
They are
countless
different.
hours too. But
Countless hours.
one of
And
the things I wanted to go back to too is you
Yeah.
asked a little bit about how we, are identifying veterans and how we're working with them.
Yes.
And sometimes one of the things that we do are a veterans cafe. And we are doing those in facilities. We can do them in the community. We can do them at a library. And it is an opportunity for us to connect the local veterans,
Yes.
to have conversation so that they can also connect with each other. So sometimes it's kind of therapeutic,
It is.
you know, for them to be able to get together and have that conversation. And we get to be able to support them through that.
When I do our veteran cafes, I always talk with our veterans about how they are their biggest support group.
Yeah.
And that what surprises me when these veterans come together, they don't know that they're veterans. They see each other all the time
Right.
in passing and whatnot, but they don't know that they serve together or they serve, period.
Yes.
So when they come together, it's like an eye-widening experience for them, and that they're like, I just didn't know you were in the service. Well, I didn't know you were in service either. So to your point, they become this amazing support group, and I really advocate and support them to seek each other out outside of these cafes,
Yeah.
to get to know each other, to
And
hear
they
their
don't have to be
stories.
on service to participate.
Right?
They
And
can
some
be
of them-
anybody.
And some of them don't know the
Yeah.
benefits that are available to them.
Right.
You know, by virtue of the fact that they are veterans. I mean,
Right.
they don't know about aid and attendance. They don't know some of the benefits that may be available to them. And they sometimes don't know that their disability may be service connected and that there may be some opportunity for compensation even when they're struggling with, you know, certain issues that may have been the result of their service. So yes, I think it's crucial because of the camaraderie and the things that you all are talking about, but also a lot of veterans are out there not understanding truly what options there might be for them to get more support in the community.
I sat with a veteran, not necessarily in a cafe, but just generally speaking. I knew a veteran, sat with him, and he had told me that one day when he went to the VA, he was sitting on a bench outside of the facility. This is like back in 2006, and he had been going to the VA since 1995. So he was sitting on this bench outside the VA, and a social worker approached him and asked, "Why are you here?" And he said, he opened up. He said, "I'm here because I have PTSD, and I'm going to the clinic." And she looked at him and she said, "Well, you know that you're entitled to benefits for that?" And he said, "I didn't know."
Oh, my heart.
He said, "I didn't." So he with her help, they followed through and they were able to navigate the benefit system and get him squared. But I agree. There's so many veterans out there that just don't know
They have
what's
no
available
idea
to
what's
them.
available. And, you know, we are here as a government to take care of our veterans.
And we
need
talked about that before, but we'll meet them where they are. We've taken care of homeless veterans.
Yeah.
We've been able to bring them into the care center. We've provided the care, in encampments or wherever we needed to be able to make sure that they were getting what they needed.
Yeah, because some veterans don't want to come in.
They don't want to.
They really don't.
No.
And they're, they struggle. And sometimes we do. We just have to meet
Sometimes
them
we
where
have
they
to
are.
be patient and, care for
Yeah.
them where they are
Yeah. Yeah.
until it's time for them to accept and
Yeah.
let us care for them in
Yeah.
the care center.
Mhm.
It's hard. It's hard.
Mhm.
It's really hard, but we need to do better because we're really kind of missing the mark.
Yeah.
But okay, what else do you have for us? I know
Well,
you've got
I
some other
have a
things.
gift that I want to give you
Oh.
before we close things up, and you get this wonderful, wonderful flag blanket for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
That is so beautiful. Pull this up for. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's really here. That's really nice. Thank you. Thank you. I'll treasure that.
And one other gift, because you are a veteran, and we give these to all of our veterans. We have 2 challenge coins that we give them.
Okay.
One is for those that served, a veteran. The other one is for our combat veterans. So we have 2 challenge coins that we give out. This one is for you, veteran to veteran, brother to sister, right? There's a way that we transfer them, right? From brother to sister. It goes from the palm of my hand into the palm of yours, like we're going to shake. Right? When I let go, you just grab onto that. Okay. That's for you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Challenge coins are really, really cool because active duty service members, before they leave a particular duty station, they may be called out in front of their platoon or their company commander. And on their way out to another duty station, they'll be handed a challenge coin. Job well done, mission accomplished, time to move on, which is wonderful recognition for them. And for you, I just wanted you to have that for all that you do and all that you do with the folks that you engage in and day out, specific to legal matters and that sort of thing. And the fact that you're a veteran as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate that. It's really special. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shannon, I wanted to say too, our foundation
Yes.
and the donations that Haven receives is a big reason that we are able to provide this,
Yes.
the veterans program,
Yeah.
because it's not a Medicare covered benefit, right? And Medicare doesn't add in the extra proof and the great things that really make care and experience, better.
Yes.
And so that's what allows us to be able to care for our veterans better.
Jodie, how can people donate? What is the best way to help? Like for a program like this, is there a way for people to donate specifically to veterans, being able to receive these recognition ceremonies?
So they can go right onto our website and we can make sure that that's provided in a link for you. And they can select the veterans program, or they can drop it off, or they can volunteer their time.
Yes.
Right. And that is a really impactful way to be involved.
Veteran to veteran.
Veteran to
would
veteran.
be very helpful.
Yes.
Yep.
You need more?
Yes.
Do you need more
definitely
veterans
need
to
more.
serve?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. Well, great. For those watching, Michael, can you just tell us a little bit about your role and what you do?
Sure. I'm one of 2 volunteer coordinators at the Gainesville ETR Care Center. I do a lot of recruiting and retaining of volunteers, getting out in the community and talking about who and what we are, bringing those wonderful people in. And as an adjunct to that, I work with our veterans and their family members specific to our We Honor Veterans and our veteran recognition ceremonies.
Excellent. Jodie Goodman, tell us also what you do.
Yeah, so I'm the executive director of our business development team. So I have the honor of being able to share what hospice and palliative care is in the community and work with a wonderful team of patient care representatives. And then I also have the honor of overseeing our volunteer coordinators and really helping to streamline and grow our volunteer footprint across all of our 18 counties.
As far as your region goes, where do you stretch to?
So for volunteers and volunteer coordinators, I cover the whole territory that Haven covers. So all 18 counties. We go just about up to the Georgia line, all the way down to Volusia Flagler.
And all the way over to the beaches.
Levy, Dixie, Gilchrist.
Right.
Yeah. All the way to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nassau.
Right. So Haven's territory is quite large.
It's very large.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're looking to grow.
And we have Haven houses, which are like the care centers. We have 5 now. Chiefland,
Palatka.
Gainesville, Palatka.
Lake City.
Lake City. Oh, I didn't realize there was one in Lake
Yep,
City.
Orange
Okay.
Park.
And Orange Park.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
great. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
beauty of Haven, in my opinion, one of the things that's really great about the Gainesville E.T. York Center
Mhm.
is that when people are at the very end, there is a place for them to go.
Absolutely.
If it's just not working
Yeah.
at home. And
Yeah.
it's quite a beautiful, I've
And
experienced that
so
personally.
the other gift, so two things. You asked me about my territory. So I talked about the
Yes.
Gainesville, Chiefland, and Lake City territories. And
Right.
so all of the counties that they cover.
Yeah.
But our care centers aren't just necessarily for the end of life, but they also provide respite care. So when families need a break, they have the opportunity to allow us to care for their patient or their loved one and know that we're taking great care of them. So that is a Medicare covered benefit if they're on hospice services too.
Is it 2 weeks a year?
5
Okay.
days. It's just about you can do it once a month.
Oh, wow.
Potentially.
I thought it was like every
We
year. that you
most
get
of the time it's
10
like
days.
every certification period. But
Okay.
they're-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, that's great. And so, like, for those of you that are doing that 24-hour care, and we know that that caregiver exhaustion and fatigue can be just debilitating, and it can sometimes mean that you need to make the shift. If you had 5 days off here and there, that could be really helpful.
Yeah.
So, and during that time, our person comes to the Haven facility,
Correct.
and then you get a minute to like go on vacation or go to a wedding or
A reunion
just
or whatever
sleep.
it is.
Just
Right.
sleep.
Just take a break.
Do some self-care.
We'll have volunteers go into homes so caregivers can go to the salon. They
Right.
can go
Yes.
grocery shopping.
Yes.
Just to give them a respite from that perspective as well.
Yes, it is a real problem. So thank you for helping with that. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us, Michael?
One more thing,
Yeah.
if I could read it.
Absolutely.
This is about our ceremonies, and this is about, I call it the keeper of memory. Something else that I felt compelled to write about our ceremonies. So it goes, in this place we remember, here the stories of warriors are spoken with honor. Here lives of service are witnessed with gratitude. Here the quiet courage of those who stood watch for others is never allowed to fade into silence. A uniform may one day be folded, a sword may one day be laid down, but the life behind them must never be forgotten. For every veteran carries within them a lifetime of duty, sacrifice, brotherhood, and love of country. And when the time comes to honor that life, we stand as witness. We speak their story. We acknowledge their service. We preserve their legacy for those who come after, so that sons and daughters may know, so that grandchildren may understand, so that a grateful nation may remember. This life mattered. This warrior will be remembered. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for the service that both of you do, not just to veterans, but to everyone who's walking through this stage in their journey. Really appreciate you all coming today and
Thank you for
sharing.
the
Thank you
invitation.
for allowing us.
Absolutely.
forward to
Absolutely. It
talking.
was so good.
If this episode made you think of someone who might benefit from hearing it, we encourage you to share it. These conversations matter. And to stay connected with future episodes of Thriving to the Finish Line, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for spending time with us.